Ed Bogish, it's my privilege to welcome you all to this special presentation, an encore presentation by the winning team in the, sorry, I've lost track of the words, the multifamily division of the 2019 US DOE Solar Decathlon, led by students from SUNY ESF and also involving students from the Syracuse University School of Architecture. It is our great privilege to host this presentation. Before we start, I want to acknowledge with respect the Onondaga Nation, firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous people on whose ancestral lands Syracuse University and SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry now stand. So this is a great moment for the community, and it's wonderful to see everyone here. And I want to acknowledge 7 people that registered to participate online and thank them for joining us online. This is like a great moment of the diversity of people here. I'd like the students to understand who the audience is. So let's go around briefly. If you could just say your name and your affiliation. I'm going to start with Diana right here.
Diana Bureau, formerly worked at Syracuse University, which is where I have from. Recently retired, doing lots of volunteer work.
Eric Rogers, also retired, and I'm a business mentor, volunteer with SCORE.
Bill?
And my husband.
Bill Chadwick, Carrier Corporation, and had the pleasure of being associated with this building when it was only a thought, and I've been with it ever since.
Bob Chrysler, I'm a Greening USA member.
Mike?
Mike Atkins, former city councilman, former chief of staff for Dan Robinson, president of the county council, and former chief of staff for New York State Senator Sam Roberts, and a community organizer.
Jim Cullen, Bitzer Scroll, provider of vapor compression products to the HVAC industry.
Sarah?
SyracuseCoE, I'm a professor at electrical engineering at Syracuse University.
Marty Fernandez, Syracuse Housing Authority.
Vinny Huber, facility engineer with Syracuse Housing Authority.
Laurel?
Laurel Wilson, staff member at Center of Excellence here.
I'm Angelina Lillian. I work upstairs at Academy Detection.
Brian Carter, I'm a research engineer at COE.
Ashley Mahee, I'm an engineer at COE, and I'm also a student at SU.
Jeremy Rosario, Syracuse Center of Excellence.
Paul McCarthy, Syracuse Center of Excellence.
I'm Mike Garrett. I used to be an intern at the Center of Excellence, but now I work for Siemens Smart Infrastructure in Syracuse.
Chris?
Chris Foreman with National Grid.
Sri Ramesh with National Grid, formerly a grad student at BSF.
John Nickerson, project manager at National Grid.
Brian Anderson, National Grid.
Peter Michael, I'm with the Climate Change Awareness and Action, a volunteer.
I'm Barry Carr. I run the Department of Energy Clean Cities program that's hosted here at the Center of Excellence.
Harry Marshall, Center of Excellence.
Chris Striley, Hers Rader with Sustainable Company.
Suraj Santana, director of the Industrial Assessment Center at Syracuse University and a faculty in College of Engineering.
Andrea Lewis, I'm with Alliance for a Green Economy with Renewable Heat Now, and we're working on the Heat Smart CNY program. I'm also kind of scoping this out to see whether maybe we want to invite you to speak at the Climate Solutions Summit in September.
Paul?
No pressure. I'm Paul Corbella with SUNY ESF.
David Amber, interim president of ESF.
Great. So thanks everyone. So all the students want to introduce. How about we do this right now? Students introduce. So name, program, and year, and hometown.
So I'm Erica. I'm a junior in construction management, and I'm from Pacific, New Jersey.
I'm Ryan. I'm a junior in construction management program at ESF, and I'm from South New York.
Michael Schmidt, junior SUNY ESF construction management program. Hometown is Highland Falls, New York. Ben Schmidt, recently graduated senior in the environmental resources engineering major, and I grew up in Attica, New York.
Noah Thousand, junior at ESF in the construction management program, and I'm a Syracuse native.
Chris Carano, sophomore in the construction management program and originally from American.
Connor Dormer, senior in the environmental resources engineering program, and I'm from Naples, New York.
Ian Lefevre, I study architecture at Syracuse. I'm in my 4th year of a 5-year program. I don't work in Syracuse.
Great, thanks. So, Syracuse COE, we like to say we're a catalyst, that we help to make things happen. So a catalyst is, interacts with some chemicals and we don't get consumed, but also, we just like make things happen. And I think that's what we had the privilege of serving as a catalyst here. And students came to us, they asked for some meeting space. We provided some meeting space. Faculty members came and advised them. They asked for some names of companies that maybe we could suggest. We suggested some names of companies. They contacted those companies. The companies got involved. And now we're here today. So we celebrate that through your connections and your leadership, you tapped into the resources of the Central New York community, including academic resources at ESF and Syracuse University, and practitioners in our local community, and did a spectacular job. So I've seen this presentation once before, and you're in for a treat, everyone. And now I'm going to introduce Paul Crabella, who's a faculty member at SUNY ESF in the Department of Sustainable Construction Management and Engineering. Previously, he was at SUNY Morrisville, where he was professor and chair of the Department of Agricultural Engineering Technology. He's also been an assistant professor at the University of Puerto Rico. He studied at the University of Buffalo in civil engineering and architecture. He's received bachelor's and master's engineering degrees in engineering from Cornell and his PhD from SUNY ESF. Paul's research and teaching interests include sustainable construction, residential construction, historic preservation, and optimum value engineering, and he is a Syracuse COE faculty fellow. Paul.
So it is my pleasure to give an introduction to the team. What I'd like to do before you see the presentation is just take a moment to explain a little bit about what competition these students are involved in, so you have a clear picture of that, and also a couple unique aspects of what this team did. First off, what is the competition? So the Department of Energy recognizes that us, the world, and the United States directly have to move in a different direction in engineering, and one of the areas they see critical to that is being able to move relative to the way our buildings perform. And so the Department of Energy has committed and for many years held a couple competitions, one called the Solar Decathlon, another, they started 5 years ago, a Race to Zero competition. And those two have come melded together, and today what they challenge teams to do is teams from all over the world to develop a proposal for a project in a category. And the category the team this year, our team chose, was in mixed multifamily. And within that category, meet demanding restraints or conditions in 10 different categories. It's the decathlon, right? And so what the students did was they challenged themselves to do that. Build a building that has unbelievable energy performance, has amazing indoor air quality, performs extremely well in terms of materials, does fabulous things with water. And so all of the teams had to challenge them in those 10 areas. That wasn't enough. They decided that they also wanted to use as a project, not something that was given to them by architecture in a studio or by talking to an individual who had an idea. They reached out to the city of Syracuse and partnered with the Syracuse Housing Authority to understand, beyond the other 10 categories, what truly are the needs in Syracuse for a building like this and better. And so they worked every 2 weeks, meeting with the Syracuse Housing Authority, understanding. It was impressive to be in some of those meetings. The students would put up drawings, and the Housing Authority would say, wait a second, that elevator isn't big enough for our gurney. Students hadn't considered that in their design, but the Syracuse Housing Authority demanded that they consider what the real conditions were. On top of that, these students came to me early in the process and essentially said, we would like you to help us through the process, and we'd like to create a structure for the process. And I looked at them and told them, hey, what you've done so far is better than anything I can create for you. And so these students did all of this outside of any academic connection. They organized on their own. I told them the last time we went through this, we were meeting on Sundays for 3 to 4 to 5 hours. It was the only time. These students did the same thing, except they met for 6 and 7 and 8 hours on Sundays, because it's the only time we were all free. So all of the other teams of the competition challenged themselves in those 10 areas, got academic credit for it, used it as part of the studio project. These students internalized the project, took it on because they wanted to do the right thing for the city of Syracuse, constrained themselves above and beyond the other constraints in the project, and you're about to hear what the result of all that was. So let's have a quick shout out. The rest of you got introductions, you got introduced to the team. We have 2 more team members who just arrived, Dylan Howlett and Taylor Miller, who were also along with the rest of these team members for the competition.
Thank you for coming.
Hello, everyone. I am honored to be in front of you today, helping share Syracuse energy efficient design, mixed use, multi-family building, C. Our lot is located in the economically challenged city of Syracuse, New York. It's about a quarter mile away from Syracuse University and about a half a mile away from downtown. The lot we chose was McKinney Manor. More importantly though, it's about 1,000 feet away from Interstate 81. This raised highway has historically divided this great city and has created a center for concentrated poverty and provided an avenue for white flight, making Syracuse one of the most racially and economically divided cities in the entire country. I've lived in Syracuse my entire life, and it's sad to watch the city we grew up in degrade like this. Like Interstate 81, the houses on this lot are crumbling. They're falling apart, they're an inefficient use of space, and they have mold and moisture issues. Most importantly though, as climate change becomes more prevalent of a problem, will these houses even be resilient enough to withstand these extreme weather conditions? You know what though? All hope isn't lost, right? Syracuse realizes this and is going through 3 major transformations totaling to over $2.2 billion, making Syracuse one of the largest investment zones in the entire state of New York. The first transformation is Rethink 81. This plan is to take this raised highway that is historically divided to this great city and turn it into a booming downtown boulevard, spurring new economic opportunities and disembarring the socioeconomic divide. Revitalization Plan 2 is Mayor Ben Walsh's plan called the Syracuse Surge. He plans to invest $100 million into the East Adams Street neighborhood, improving on education and public housing. When we met with Mayor Ben Walsh, he told us how our design fits into the future of Syracuse and how we can further the initiative. Transformation 3 involves our building owner, Syracuse Housing Authority. Next month, they plan on bringing a master developer to redevelop all this land highlighted in yellow. Outlined in their transformation plan, they plan to take McKinney Manor, which is this lot right here, and parcel it into 3 properties, starting with 101 Latimer Terrace. Also outlined in the plan is a mixed-use, multi-family building that's energy efficient. Now, with this building being in the center of all these redevelopments, we believe we're bringing in this seed when the soil is most fertile. My name is Noah Townsend.
My name is Michael Schmidt.
All right, Becky.
I'm Ben Schmidt.
And I'm Erica, and we are Syracuse Energy Efficient Design. We are here today to represent a team of 22 individuals from both Syracuse University and SUNY ESF that have been student-led and from multidisciplinaries all across the board. We met with our various industry partners over time, but we especially met with Syracuse Housing Authority bi-weekly, as they are the current owners of our building lot and will be the managers of our building C. They helped us with various operations and maintenance problems, and they helped us to create an innovative yet practical building for the area of Syracuse. We began this project either to do our part in the redevelopment of Syracuse, and this is how we did it. Displayed on the screen are the 6 goals that we believe to be the most essential for our project. Before making any decision, we brought our choices through these touchstones, beginning with environmental impact and ending with replicability. We asked ourselves, does this design lead to net zero energy? Does it promote a healthy lifestyle? How affordable is this option? How resilient can this option be? How easily operated and maintained is this decision? And lastly, how easily replicable can this option be? We will reference these touchstones through the panel on the upper right of the screen. If they appear highlighted in dark as they are shown here, it means that the decision on the screen directly relates to that touchstone. We will also be referencing our innovative ideas through a gold logo on the bottom right of the screen. If it appears gold, it means that the design led for our building to be simple, smart, and sustainable. We also reference various codes, standards, and guidelines in order to help our building to be as efficient as possible. We couldn't ignore the fact that Syracuse is being rezoned, and we adhere to enterprise green communities as well as purpose-built communities to promote a community wellness within the area. We also conduct extensive market research in order to come up with the intended occupants for our building. Currently, there are 25 units on the lot of McKinney Manor, and all of those residents of the units have the right of return to our building. We also came up with a 61% market rate and a 39% below market rate income for our building. With this, it becomes an optimum mixed income building for the area. This led us to come up with a $1,300 2-bedroom and a $1,100 1-bedroom unit. This can house people from all over Syracuse, including doctors from the hospitals, professors from the universities, as well as single-parent families. Although we're only designing one building for this lot, we intend for this building to be replicated throughout the entire East Adams Street neighborhood.
To further elaborate on that idea of replicability, which was a huge factor in our design, this bottom lot represents the current footprint of C, 101 Ladbroke Terrace. However, because the Syracuse Housing Authority wants to put over 200 units on the 3 use-sanctioned McKinney Manor lots, we see the middle lot acting as a residential community, as the top lot, as all of you know, the busy East Adams Street. We see that acting as a business district. Because the Syracuse Housing Authority master developer could take these floor plans and easily manipulate them, right? They could change the amount of floors, they could change the shape, they could change the function of the commercial space. This is a very unique floor plan that allows the Syracuse Housing Authority master developer some wiggle room.
So as Noah was saying, we developed a lower lot in McKinney Manor. So with this, we really tailored the site to promote active design for the residents as well as for the commercial space. So this is why we include key elements such as gathering spaces, a community garden, as well as a playground for the commercial space. With this, you'll also notice a rain garden on the southwest corner of our lot. This is not only for aesthetic value, but also to limit discharge into Syracuse's outdated combined sewer system. So this sewer system essentially takes urban runoff and sewer in times of high flow and discharges it into Onondaga Lake. This lake was actually named America's most polluted lake back in 2012. And Syracuse, after realizing this was to be an issue, as well as Onondaga County, and after spending $1 billion on revitalization, has begun the program named Save the Rain. So this program uses innovative green infrastructure approaches to combat this urban runoff, and actually won the EPA Water Prize back in 2013. So to continue with their initiatives, we also cited bioswales along the outline of the parking lot, stormwater planters along the outline of the building, as well as coarse pavement and natural vegetation to limit irrigation. With this, all these practices are sized to handle the 90th percentile storm in Syracuse, which is about 1 inch. But to provide resilience to these structures, we fitted each with an overflow valve, which will transport 100% of excess stormwater in times of high flow and discharge and store it in a stormwater retention basin located under the parking lot. This will limit the discharge into the combined sewer in times of high flow and help with the revitalization of Onondaga Lake.
Not only does the site serve a function, but it also serves a purpose. The current McKinney Manor has luscious green space, which is something that's really missing from Syracuse. So we really wanted to accentuate that. McKinney Manor is fenced off from the remaining community and not allow anyone else who doesn't live there to use it. We wanted our lot to act as a unifying principle for the neighborhood, someplace where everyone can come and gather and boost morale and camaraderie. right? So we implemented rain gardens, pergolas. I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to read our progress report underneath that umbrella?
So our building consists of 5 stories and roughly 57,000 square feet. The design of our building started with the concept of modularity. We didn't intend to create one perfect unit, but rather an energy efficient unit which could be easily expanded and replicated throughout the East Adams Street district. The 1 and 2 bedroom units converge to define the interior and exterior of our building. This concept of modularity allowed us to avoid long continuous hallways, similar to the infamous hallways in the Shining. Not only that, but they created an alcove, a prime location for bike storage, which is an intended primary mode of transportation for our residents. In order to further cater to our residents, on each floor, there will be a community space and a high-efficiency laundry room.
Moving to the interior of the units, we wanted to use this hypothesis known as biophilia. Can I get a show of hands? How many of you have ever heard of biophilia? Oh, this is good. So, renowned architect, Mass Timber architect Michael Green probably defines it the best. He says that humans have an inherent connection to the outdoors. So implementing these into our design gives the space characteristic appeal before it's even furnished. So that includes things such as products with a grain pattern, abundant amount of daylighting, walls with earth tones, as well as natural vegetation in all the units and commercial spaces, as well as common spaces.
Our ground floor also includes 1 and 2 bedroom units to account for the 80-20 ratio that was set forth by the Department of Energy guidelines. Between our residential units and our commercial space is what enables C2 function. So we have properly sized operational rooms, including a mechanical room that can not only fit our equipment, but also equipment staff in the case of failure. And we also have a trash room that's properly sized towards net trash, zero trash guidelines, which means that we have 3 trash receptacles, both for landfill, recycling, and composting, as well as properly sized bins that can easily be removed from the building through doors at the bottom directly leading to the parking lot. Our commercial space was designed with safety as an utmost importance. We have an entrance that allows people to get out of the weather through a vestibule, but they cannot enter the main functioning space of the commercial area.
Richie left me on a bit of a cliffhanger. So what is the commercial space? Although the competition didn't really require us to pick a function for the commercial space, the need for well-kept, affordable, trustworthy childcare is at an all-time high in the East Adams Street neighborhood. Over 75% of the families living in this area are raised by a single parent. Not only does this daycare meet the New York State daycare requirements, but it also goes above and beyond that by employing a Harvard study. This Harvard study said that an optimal indoor environment affects the cognitive ability of the children positively. So we made sure to think about all the little things, like compartmentalized wall assemblies to keep the noise down, abundant amount of lighting for reading, MERV 1113 filters with all the ventilation equipment, and a playground facility to promote an active design.
So you may be curious as to how this building will be constructed. So our wall materiality begins with the concept of off-site and panelized construction. Beginning with the foundation stem walls and first floor walls, these will be constructed out of insulated concrete floors. This will be reinforced with an innovative product known as Helix Micro Rebar, which adds to the three-dimensional strength of the concrete. Beyond this, our upper floor walls are constructed out of 2x6s with both cavity insulation and exterior rigid insulation. Sandwiched between these 2 layers is a zip sheathing layer, which acts as our primary air barrier as well as moisture barrier. So beyond this, we conducted dew point calculations to ensure that condensation would not build within our wall cavities, which is a detrimental issue in high-performance buildings. Beyond this, we use Therm, a 2-dimensional heat flow analysis, to identify the weakest point within our building's thermal envelope. That point is actually located right here, where the insulated concrete forms meet the upper floor walls. We're capable of identifying the temperature at this point, and once again, ensuring that condensation will not build within this wall cavity. As I had mentioned, the zip sheathing layer, shown in the green line here, acts as our primary air sealing approach for the entire building's air tightness. But there is a need for compartmentalizing our wall assemblies between apartments to control contaminants. In order to tackle this notoriously difficult task of manual air sealing, We've implemented an innovative solution known as Aero Barrier. Aero Barrier is an aerosolized solution which is misted into the apartment while the apartment is pressurized. The pressure is forced through with a blower door, and the pressure forces these particles into the small cracks and leaks within the building envelope and seals them up. As seen in this image, it's capable of sealing gaps from a ½ inch all the way down to 10 microns, which is smaller than a human hair.
In addition to compartmentalization, we also use source control when picking all of our interior finishes, materials, and products. We wanted to make sure they had a low volatile organic compound to promote a healthy lifestyle within our building, as well as maintain optimal indoor air quality for our residents.
So continuing with the idea of indoor air quality, we decided to utilize a continuous and balanced ventilation system within our building. We utilize the 7 vertical shafts shown here in this isometric view going up to a central rooftop unit, making this a centralized ventilation system. We chose centralized because after looking into decentralized, it would put over 72 penetrations in our building's envelope. With this, we only put 2 in the roof. So this air is coming up from the residential units as well as the common spaces to the central unit on the roof known as the Renew Air HT Series ERV. With this, we also employ a separate ventilation system for the commercial space, which would be the CERV ERV. This system is very innovative as it gives the operator real-time monitoring of the VOC and CO2 concentrations within childcare, so that way we can ensure a very high standard of indoor air quality for the commercial space. With this, we will also be using an innovative approach similar to Aero Barrier, which is called AeroSeal, which is the same process but within these long duct runs. So that way we can limit the air leakage with these long duct runs using an extremely low VOC concentrate material. With this process, we also expect to see results 25 to 30 years out upon completion. So moving on to how each unit will be heated and cooled. So we actually supply air to the heat pump for each unit from the ERV. This means that our units will be heated using a decentralized system design. So with this, we're using the Daikin Smart Source water air heat pump with a size 3/4 to 1 ton using an innovative energy modeling software, which Mike will discuss later. With this, we also make sure we have proper space allocations for the unit in case of accessibility for maintenance staff. And we also locate the unit outside of the residence unit, so that way it's accessible through the hallways. So that way maintenance staff does not have to go into the unit to access the system. With this, we also supply air to areas we expect heat loss throughout the building envelope, so that's near the windows, and also supplemental returns within the unit, making sure we're not pressurizing any point within the unit. This will all be supplied by the on-site geothermal system. This will be consistent of 400-foot vertical wells, which will be going pumped through with a glycol mixture to a central manifold in the first floor maintenance room. From there, it will be distributed to a decentralized design of our heating and cooling, and then to our water heat pump allocated for domestic hot water production. We decided to utilize a centralized domestic hot water production after looking into, again, the idea of decentralized. So to accommodate a decentralized design of this domestic hot water production, it would upsize our heat pumps in each unit to 2.5 tons to accommodate a desuperheater. Realizing that upsizing of equipment in these decentralized designs is a common industry problem, we went back to a centralized design and utilized the vertical shaft within the building. So once it gets to each unit, we limit to a tight water core set forth by the DOE Zero Energy Ready Home guidelines. And on the end of each branch, we place WaterSense fixtures, reducing our water consumption in the building by 47.5% from LEED baseline. So any MEP design is not complete without looking at the lighting within the unit. To do this, we utilized a Grasshopper Depot simulation software, which really optimized the daylighting within the unit. So that way we can limit artificial lighting. So let's mess with the window to wall ratio for each unit, making sure that we're getting optimal daylighting. And it gave us a 19% window to wall ratio. With this, we also use centered occupancy zone lighting systems in the hallways. So that dims the light down to 20% after 5 minutes of non-occupancy, giving the building owner 73% savings from traditional T8 lighting systems.
One of the hardest, almost impossible variables to calculate in high efficiency building is the building occupancy behavior. You never know how many showers the residents are going to take or what they're going to set the thermostat at. In order to combat this issue, SEED will employ techniques of demand-side management, a building automation system, energy meters, and an interactive in-home display as a comprehensive strategy to reduce our energy use. On screen now is a breakdown of all the components that will be incorporated into the building automation system. This will allow us to easily monitor all of our building systems, such as our automated lighting system or the efficiencies of our rooftop PRVs. Not only that, but it will be directly linked to the Syracuse Police Department, ensuring the safety of our residents. In order to convey all this information to the residents, we will be using the Siemens in-home display unit. This will convey valuable information to the residents, such as how their actions are impacting the building's efficiency, their energy usage, and their monthly energy bills. Although we understand this may be a little intimidating to some of the residents, so we've constructed a comprehensive demand-side management manual. We also understand that not everyone's interested in reading the lengthy manual, so we will hold monthly meetings in our common spaces that will educate the residents on how they can live a more eco-friendly and green lifestyle. In order to optimize our connection to the grid, we'll be working directly with National Grid and participating in their net metering service through the use of our bidirectional meters. This will allow SEED to function as an independent systems operator and sell our renewable energy that's being produced on site through the state transmission services for 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Since this competition is the solar decathlon, how do we not have renewable solar energy on our site? On our roof, we have a 68.7 kilowatt mounted roof array. These panels will be mounted at 30 degrees and produce roughly 80,000 kilowatt hours of energy per year. Not only do we look deep into the design of these, the setup of this roof array, but we consider New York State fire code heavily. There will be a 4-foot pathway around the perimeter of the array and 8-foot pathways through the center of the array to ensure first responders have proper access to the roof, properly ventilate, and fight fire. On the south side of our site, we have a 200 kilowatt solar carport. The structure of the solar carport will be the SunPower, Longspan, and Blue Ridge solar carport. We opted for this because it allowed us to have an adjusted angle of 30 degrees and optimize our production. This carport will produce roughly 250,000 kilowatt hours of energy per year. Not only that, it will collect 280,000 gallons of water per year. That's roughly half the size of the Olympic swimming pool. This water that's collected from the carport can then be discharged into the rain garden, as been discussed before. Together, these systems will produce roughly 335,000 kilowatt hours of energy per year, and that's thanks to the panel we use. We use the SunPower E-Series panel, which has an efficiency of 20%. Not only that, but it is cradle-to-cradle certified, a notable achievement in the solar industry. This ensures that the contents of the panel will be properly recycled once they extend their lifetime.
So to identify the total building's energy consumption, we used a brand new energy modeling software known as Trace 3D+. Trace is built off of the DOE Energy Plus simulation software in conjunction with Trace's load sizing and equipment sizing capabilities. We're capable of outputting a source PUI of 33.6 kBTUs per square foot. Now this far surpasses the guidelines set forth by the Department of Energy, which was 80 kBTUs per square foot, and further reduced our energy consumption past the Passive House Plus 2018 guidelines. This is a new standard set by Passive House Institute US to reduce energy consumption near net zero. Beyond this, we used REM rate to identify several things about our energy consumption. We really wanted to drill our energy consumption down to a unit by unit basis. So using REM rate allowed us to do a multitude of things, but primarily we plotted a Hertz index, as shown here at -7.5. But beyond this, REM rate also allows us to ensure compliance with Energy Code, compliance with Energy Star, and compliance with the Department of Energy Zero Energy Ready Homes guidelines. Well, all these energy efficiency features come at a cost. So to identify this cost, we constructed a CSI master format estimate, which totaled to $9.1 million. This includes all items that a developer could expect to pay for the entire redevelopment of this lot. Furthermore, it is an excellent environment in New York State to be developing energy efficient, affordable housing. We're capable of reducing this cost to $7.7 million, which is equal to that of a code-constructed building. This is done through incentives and rebates. As shown here, we are also capable of financing this entire project through grants, tax credits, loans, and rebates. It's also important to mention that this building has been designed to be the catalyst for the neighborhood, setting an extremely low energy benchmark in the heart of the East Adams Street neighborhood.
So we did not receive academic credit for this project. Our passion for helping the city of Syracuse is what drove us to do this competition. This is a mid-rise building in a mid-sized city, meaning it has the potential to have a huge impact. This logo represents so much more than just a team. It represents bringing back opportunity. In the coming months, when we present this design to the Syracuse Housing Authority's master developer, and it has the chance to affect 27 city blocks, 1,000 plus public housing units, and 118 acres, we hope we can play our part in Syracuse's economic future and aid in the global climate crisis. Thank you. So that was, believe it or not, the actual presentation we gave in Colorado that won this stat for it. We beat some pretty impressive teams. Yale was there, Kansas, a team from Berlin, a team from India. There were over 80 teams that submitted. We beat out the first 12 in our division, and then we beat an additional 8, and then we went on to present the grand prize. And I'd like to think we got snubbed out of the grand prize presentation. But anyways.
They won the software from
Yeah, they won from all, yeah, exactly. But I mean, this has been an amazing journey for us, right? It's been amazing exposure, and honestly, just the fact that we can help the city, especially for me, this is the city I grew up in, and to give back to the community that's already given me so much is just an amazing thing. We got to meet with the mayor. He formally endorsed our project, which is awesome. The city of Syracuse is a great place. Syracuse Housing Authority, thank you so much. It's a pleasure working with you, honestly. This is the poster that we presented. We're actually in the paper for our design. Feel free to look at these when you're getting up for refreshments. This is also the trophy and NREL with all of our team. We can look at those later.
So this was the 25-minute, as you mentioned, the 25-minute presentation we gave at So this was to a board of industry professionals. So we'll open it to questions for about 10 minutes if anyone has questions.
Yeah, just a quick one. That's a very impressive presentation. I'm blown away. Just one quick question though. Did you have any chance to compare your construction cost either on a per square foot basis or as a percentage relative to a minimum code compliant building?
Yes, that's exactly what we did actually. So we constructed essentially 2 estimates. We had an estimate for just kind of a baseline, our building to code, none of the energy efficient features, using the same systems, similar systems. And then we compared that to our total construction cost. And as I mentioned briefly, essentially the code constructed building cost about $7.7 million. Our building was at $9.1 million. And we were capable of reducing that through incentives, tax credits, loans, rebates, to drop that down to $7.7 million. So it's fairly.
So it went from 9 point what?
9.1 to 7.7.
Yes.
Very impressive. And as a native Syracusean, I started my career at Mulberry Square. I was the resident manager that was replaced by McKinney Manor. And one of the problems that they had, the thought process wasn't as detailed as what you're doing right now. And because of the fact that they didn't, because of the wind drill that was in the carports, they had a lot of problems with pipes busting and so forth. And this comes full circle to see that we're doing our due diligence and we're really trying to make this next phase comfortable for those that are going to live there. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
In your energy modeling, you've done for the for the building types for the consumption, but I don't know if you have to project it out the cost for a lifespan or for a 25-year block, baseline building versus this proposed building, what the cost difference would be, because I would assume that this one here is far less for a owner-operator perspective.
Yeah, we actually had an auxiliary group this was their whole capstone of our building. We actually have our chief energy modeler here. Dylan, you mind?
Howdy. So the question was about finance, right? It was about the longevity of the building, and it was like a 25-year period you were talking about.
Right. What would be the cost difference between the baseline version and your proposed version here? There's obviously a different cost amount to operating the whole thing for purely from the energy perspective.
Right. So Trace 3D Plus recommended by the Department of Energy for us to use to model the building because it was a mixed-use building. It was kind of complicated for other softwares. It allowed us to input operations and maintenance schedules as well as costs associated with the building. Given that we were in such a time crunch and we had to learn it on our own, we were with one of our industry partners in this office every day working on this thing. Operations and maintenance costs were not factored into our analysis. So I can't give you a definitive answer on that.
So were you asking like raw energy costs? So this is more energy efficient compared to the baseline. So what were the energy savings over 25 years?
Right, the value of that.
Sure. So it was, from an energy standpoint, we saved around $70,000, I believe, compared to the baseline from an electrical consumption standpoint. But again, the question that you're asking me, I do not have the answer to. So I'm just being honest.
It's just that you guys really polished it up. Great. And I cautioned you that Vinny and I don't deal with the development side, but I gave you some cautions about the realities of the site you're on, which is 3, 4, 5 bedrooms. So you know that if you're going to go in front of a master developer, one of the things they're going to be looking at is how do they allow people that are presently in 3, 4, 5 bedrooms to come back to a high rise that has 1 and 2 bedrooms. So that's a big thing for you to consider when you're looking at the realities of the political situation of that neighborhood. And it's starting to really heat up a little bit in terms of the 15th Ward discussions about how they've been displaced to begin with to build public housing, and now how they may be displaced again to bring in the mixed income scenario. So the political realities will hit you back in the face eventually. 5-story high rises, not necessarily the best for families of 5. So these are the type of things that you will be encountering if you do take this into Blueprint 15, which again, we are not part of. Vinny and I deal with reality and maintainability of the buildings, and we usually have to deal with the aftermath of great ideas, but not really the end result that everybody thought would be. So a lot of times we're replacing those Energy Star refrigerators because motors burn out, were fire hazards, and at what cost? All that stuff is the type of things we've experienced over the last 15, 20 years. He's a mad scientist. He's a great, he can pick apart electrical and mechanical design pretty good, but we're doing it on the fly with you guys. But when you get into the development of this, there are going to be some stark realities. Your cost is going to increase because you're going to have mandates. You're going to have WBE Section 3 disadvantaged business. You're going to have job training programs. These extend cost, extend construction schedule. So best laid plans of mice and men eventually do come up to the realities. But I think keep it going, keep pushing, see where I hope that they do. You get an audience with Blueprint 15 and with the master developer when it is eventually picked, which will probably be more than a month down the road. But we really can't speak to that, but hopefully you'll get them on board. I don't know how many other representatives of the city are here, but that's where it starts, that Blueprint 15 group, the Allen Foundation, which is heavily involved in it. So just keep it going and learn.
I appreciate all your concern.
Yep.
And we really are trying to do the best thing for Syracuse. And I do appreciate your point about the families. We did size the 2 bedrooms for single parent families. However, if the master developer doesn't choose to, develop one-on-one Latimer Terrace, they could easily be transferred to the middle lot or the top lot. And then this is our chief architect here. He can tell you about the modularity and floor plan a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously designing this and trying to balance the Solar Decathlon and its kind of stringent requirements with those of the Syracuse Housing Authority it was a challenge that was definitely worth going through and learning, but there were some things that had to be, we've had this conversation before, and we had to make some sacrifices just to stay on track for the DOE, because that was kind of the first milestone in getting everyone in this room, is if we win, people are going to care more. So we had to win that first. We did design these units, and we didn't have the flashiest building in the competition, but what we did here was that it was the most realistic. And part of that was that we designed these units to be almost like Lego blocks. So you can take pieces of them and plug them in differently. So we have these one unit bedrooms, and then the 2 bedroom units, but they could easily be kind of reconfigured. They could grow and shrink. The 1 and 2 bedroom units to be combined to form a larger unit. These are things we were kind of taking into account as we knew the question was going to come up again, but we couldn't necessarily address it at the time, but we wanted the option to be there in the future. So that was part of our design strategy throughout, was allowing for those changes. Yeah, and my point isn't to harp on it, but to just, yes, keep thinking about it if you are going to further this presentation. Because at some point that the realities of tax credits and affordable housing and the mandates and the design requirements will come in.
Yes. First off, I meant to compliment you guys. It's fantastic, not only for the technical, but your choreographed presentation is outstanding. No matter how much technical knowledge is there, unless it's presented well, not all that gets through. But I think your whole emphasis on the diversity of speakers and the ability to hit different topics in different sequences, very well done, very well polished. Quick question on the exterior of the building. Maybe you said this and it slipped by me, but I couldn't tell. Do you require each module be south-facing? So it could look like in one of your orientations there, one of your aerial views, it would be that some buildings are blocking the next building over, so you actually wouldn't get much sunlight. Did I catch that? Is that correct or incorrect?
That one.
So we did consider this. So not every unit has southern exposure. We do have a double wall recorder, so there are units on both sides of that. We did optimize that solar exposure as best we could. But also we did look into, so as seen in this image here, we did look into kind of the spacing and the orientation on like multiple parcels to ensure that, so like this building, for instance, would not shade a building placed right on street level, street right across. So we did look into that. We did some shading analysis through our desk format and looked at some configurations. So that was definitely something that we looked into.
And then I think we modeled the worst case apartment.
Yeah, so the solar analysis that was shown here was modeled for the worst case apartment and how much sunlight to kind of, if we can reduce the electric lighting load by using daylighting, that's obviously a great thing to help. In energy efficiency is just not using the energy in the first place, then you don't need to replace it. But I think it's also important to note that the diagram that was just up there with the site plans where things may be blocking we developed that more as a diagram. It wasn't, we only designed that southernmost building. The rest were just to show this kind of Lego block capability that the building can be reformatted and shaped in different ways. Further analysis would obviously go into the full-blown design and shaping of those buildings, but to help kind of show our concept to the DOE and then to you was just to kind of make these different configurations to show different uses.
Yeah.
Is this presentation available to look at through the web for people who couldn't make it here?
It is now. We just recorded it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we signed away our rights.
So if you were to search the solar
live stream today, so you can go and find it on a line
Decathlon. All of the winning projects are up there. They have the presentations, they have final reports up there.
Good.
So you can look at other, compare to other projects.
Yes.
In your corridors, what are the diagonal dark lines?
Oh, those are bike storage.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
That was the only thing on that picture I couldn't figure out.
Any questions? This is how it was at the DOE. We got up there, gave the presentation, asked for questions, and we actually cut them off. They just didn't have any questions. All right. Any case, you want to come up here? Dr. Bowman?
So.
Wait, one more.
Oh.
I have a question. How was it to work on like a diverse team?
So we started out with 50 students. Can you imagine trying to coordinate 50 people? It's hard enough to coordinate 10, right? One of my jobs was, I was kind of the organizational figurehead for the team. I was the meeting agenda, the meeting invites, the to-do list guy, the to-do list guy. But it was we created an environment that is similar to the one that is seen in the real design world, right? Because you have your engineer, you have your architects, you have your finance guy, you have your energy people, and they're always butting heads, and they're always having to meet real deadlines. Because when was architecture finished? That was 3 years before the project. Right? How many times did you ask Ian to move the wall in the mechanical room?
Only a couple times after the final design.
This is what it takes, but it's unique because you say that in the real world, the architect can say, no, I think you're good, make it work. Here, we were able to optimize between disciplines and the majors and industry partners, and we really think we got the best design out of everybody that we could. It was stressful, but they often, yes.
Now, I know that some members of your team are graduating. Some members of your team already have internships and work experience lined up for the summertime. Does anybody not have a job for the summer? If anybody doesn't have a job for the summer, let me know. This is a winning team. There's no question. We're so proud of you. Yeah. And we think that the companies that you've engaged with and the ones that you haven't would be delighted to work with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I told the students that as we finished up, I thought it would be appropriate to take this moment with all of you here to explore the opportunities that I think we're presented with right now in Syracuse. And I'll just explain briefly. 5 years ago, the DOE started this competition, and we had an equally passionate group of students. The size was a lot smaller, but again, they worked hard, nobody killed anyone, and they went out and won the grand prize for a single family home. Okay, so they entered that category that year. Today, basically 5 years later, that home has finally been built. Oh, called the Montage. We had proposed it here in Syracuse. We had a lot of discussion at the time. As projects go, things change. It ended up becoming part of a youth training program in the city of Schenectady, and has been constructed in the city of Schenectady. And so just last month, I was able to send out an email to team members who've gone out for the last 5 years, sharing this news with them. These folks challenged themselves to do a project here in Syracuse along these same lines. Like that project, I'm sure things will change, but we had a discussion when we won last time about how to move this forward, and I thought it would be nice to segue into that now. Earlier this week, in fact, John Nickerson from National Grid reached out to me with some interesting work they're doing, and so I thought, John, if you would be willing to maybe just take a minute and share. This project is based around using geothermal, and we typically think of geothermal at a certain scale. But National Grid's got interest in potentially developing projects that have different scales. So, would you be willing to?
Sure. Yeah, just briefly I'm with the Special Projects Group, and we are always looking for the next way to tackle the current problems that are facing us. And as an industry, the utility industry, we're moving away from what we did 50 years ago. And First off, a lot of people get us wrong. Just National Grid does not generate power as a group. We are a transition delivery company for electric, and we transmit gas. So we don't own gas fields. We're not in the process, or we don't own big generation plants today. That whole type of the industry is long gone for us. But anyway, looking to the future, we're looking right now at our opportunities in the geothermal realm. So we have a pilot project down in Long Island, the Riverhead project, which we funded the process of putting in an array, a geothermal array, which is on a loop, and it provides heating, cooling, and hot water for 10 homes. That the technical data coming out of that is telling us where the viabilities are, where the best opportunities are in terms of our role. And now we've been in communication actually with the Syracuse Housing Authority here over the past year, dovetailing. Actually didn't know that this project was going on simultaneously, but it's a great fit because we're interested in doing the geothermal piece, in which we would own the systems, under the underground systems, and the building owner, which would be SHA, would own everything we traditionally own, which would be the anything internal. So it might be a very good match. We've got some work ahead of us to do the actual pairing off and so on. But ultimately, if we were able to make a design for it that worked well, it's a new business model for us and something we can add to our suite of services. So we're excited about this type of project and the interest in geothermal across the state, which is actually on the upswell, very rapid upswell, I might add. So appreciate the opportunity to hear what the students presented here, and I see we certainly have some very definitive, well-defined next steps for us.
Cool. Thank you, John. So that said, I think the students could share a little bit, but they have reached out to the Ellen Foundation, who have an interest in the city of Syracuse and changing the way development occurs in the city of Syracuse and an investment in the city of Syracuse, or potentially looking at that as for them to recognize this project and assist this project moving forward. So I think that's the conversation we're interested in. If any of you at this point would either like to share anything or add your support to it, I think really we don't have a clearly defined path forward, but the students will be working with the Syracuse Housing Authority to present to the master developer. The more at that point that they can present about potential collaborations and synergies, the better. So that said, if there's any other questions, or
I think Vinny is here. He's a systems engineer. I'm sure you could speak into how geothermal is a good thing for the area, not good thing for the SHA.
Well, the big thing you got to do is because it requires a refrigeration cycle, is to have a very reliable compressor. We've got a lot of heat pump systems, and about 10 years until we get out of the unit, the compressor goes and the end of it. So that piece of the thing would be more reliable, so you get 20 years out of it than with a conventional heating plant. That would be really nice.
I can't resist. This guy right in front of you makes compressors.
As a compressor guy, yeah, that's a tough question. We live in a disposable world now, so I was curious to see the scale of the system that would come out of such a building, because as you go to smaller distributed stuff, you get into serially mass-produced stuff in the lowest cost places in the world with the lowest cost processes that don't last more than 10 years. If you get a year or two out of warranty period, you're lucky. So I was curious what kind of systems these things lead to and what that does as far as scale and sizing and equipment.
Right, and that relates to my comment that we usually end up replacing a lot of things sooner than they were promised. And that usually at a cost outside the developer's cost and construction cost. It's out in the maintenance and reserve budget side. So
We have bigger compressors that are made in Syracuse, the less.
There are some really great examples of places where geothermal is working pretty impressively, like St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan. And I know that the city of Auburn, City Hall, has had a geothermal system that's been working for 15 years. And there are a bunch of places around. It's just not very well known.
So from a systems perspective for our building, as Noah mentioned earlier, my capstone project was to do an analysis of this version of the building with systems and envelope compared to two other alternatives, including a baseline alternative with baseline envelope and baseline systems. taken from ASHRAE 90.1 2013, and another one which was the envelope with the baseline system. So the baseline system that was chosen was system 5, according to ASHRAE 90.1. It's VAV with reheat. And essentially, what our capstone concluded was that from an energy perspective, from an environmental perspective, the alternative with the high performance envelope and the ASHRAE baseline system, system 5, performed better financially and would actually be more closer to the net zero energy goal that we set originally. If that building was outfitted with system 5 compared to our geothermal, it would produce, I think the source EUI was like 77 kBTU per square foot. It was using about 120,000 kilowatt hours less. So it's pretty interesting. You know, this is a really cool program that National Grid brings up. But in the event that it doesn't work out for whatever purpose, it's not the end of the world. I think that a good backup plan would be to go with the baseline system. And again, that's what our capstone found earlier this year.
What was the synopsis on carbon?
Even so, let's see.
Because then our building performed better in terms of carbon, and the state actually put out some initiatives to reduce carbon. And so it fits within the goals of the state, the city, you know, and various stakeholders, the world. You know.
So I'm going to thank Paul and thank the students and thank you all for coming. We've got some refreshments outside, and I invite everyone to come and join us for refreshments and interactions one-on-one with the students. Again, thanks and congratulations.